glad that you're joining us again. We're always excited to sit down and talk about finance, building wealth. There's so many great things and directions that we can go. We hear so many good questions that come in. We're going to try to get to those as we talk about some of these things. But as we're filming this, we're still, of course, in the middle of the pandemic. But it's interesting as we're having these conversations and we're talking about things. One of the things that we constantly say and remind ourselves and others is that it's an incredible opportunity. Many times, what happens if we don't understand a little bit about economics, and we don't have to understand the full economy, and that's complex, but if we don't understand economics and how they work and investing, and some of those things, at least a little bit, our tendency when we see something like this, Dr. Crum, is to be from fear-based, where we want to pull in. And as I've mentioned before, it's worth repeating over and over again, the disparity between the affluent, between the wealthy, and people that have not yet built their wealth, many times grows during pandemic or challenging times or market corrections, because it's what people do that determines that outcome.
You know, people, we've heard it said there are more millionaires made in times of recession and down times. And anytime there's confusion, that's opportunity, because it doesn't mean it's automatic. And it takes a lot of courage, I'll say, to step in sometimes, because your comfort zone is not there. I mean, your comfort feeling that this is the perfect time. But you have to look at some indicators, and there are indicators that you can watch. How low has it, like, for example, stock market, how low has it gone in the recession? We can look back. Which stocks went down? Which recovered the first? Which went down the first? And those things will repeat themselves. History repeats itself.
It does. And those are what we refer to as trends and market data and things that we can watch. There's trends in the market. There's highs and lows. And we're not, please understand, we're not talking about trying to time the market, but about doing a little bit of research as you learn and grow. Now, the starting place that we always talk about is that there's a difference sometimes between a person's retirement account and maybe they're buying some stocks and just kind of picking up some things to help round out or grow their portfolio. Maybe you have a bonus and you say, I've got a few $5,000 and I'm funding my 401k or my retirement, my IRA. But what do I do with that? That's when doing a little bit of research. And you probably did more of that side than I did. But let's talk a little bit about that for a moment. We've got our 401k. We're funding that. We always encourage people to make sure at a minimum that you're meeting the match if there is one. If you have an IRA, what people say, what are percentages? A good starting point's 10%. Obviously, if you can do more of that, but 10% is kind of your first goal to get to when you're investing in your retirement and getting that started, and you want to keep doing that. But let's talk for a moment about maybe somebody has an additional $5,000. Maybe they got a bonus. Maybe they inherited money or came across some money or saved some extra money. What are some tips for maybe looking at buying a stock? Some things that you might want to look for?
Well, going back again to what is the intention? Where are you? Somebody that's in that position may be looking for growth. Somebody like myself, I'm not looking as much for growth at my age as I'm looking for stability and income. But if, let's say, somebody had $5,000 to invest and they wanted to invest, we would tell them, really consider the mutual funds, the index funds, because really that amount of money, depending on how much they can afford to lose, with the intent of not losing, but if they can find out if they want to build a portfolio. This is what I was trying to say. If you're trying to build a portfolio, that's one thing. If you're trying to find a stock that you think is good, then that makes it a lot more difficult. Because there are thousands of stocks. Thousands. I don't know how many. There used to be 5,000 on New York Stock Exchange. I don't know how many, but there are thousands. And how do you select? Well, you select based upon some criteria. Number one, do you know anything about the subject? If you're investing something you know nothing about, then your risk is higher. Secondly, do you know what your expected return is and in what category? You and I were just talking a while ago about mid cap stocks, low cap, and high cap stocks. Institutionals, they look at their risk based upon we only invest in high caps, where or maybe mid cap. But for the single with $5,000, that doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
You see, high cap people that don't know cap is when it's the number of shares by the price of the shares multiplied, tells you the value of that company and as retail value. So if it's a high cap stock and let's say it has a million shareholders and it's at $50 a share, what is that? $5 billion, I think, in a value. That'd be a mid cap stock. So that's just one indicator. But if you're trying to build a portfolio, you need to think of diversity. Where do I start first? Where do I start second? Not trying to complicate it, but that's a simple question.
Yeah.
But there's not a simple answer.
There's not, because there's no, many times what people are looking for is give me that stock. They want that Microsoft, that Apple, that Google, and we all do, and it would be great to have those. But and we're not against buying some stock. That's the thing. You have to do your research on some of those. But I want to back up a little bit and touch on for those that are viewing. Many times people don't understand when we talk about small, mid, large cap. That is, the cap is short for capitalization. It is the capitalization of the value of a company. So when investing in a portfolio, a small, mid, large cap is usually a good way to start diversifying a little bit because they all function a little bit differently. A small cap company is anywhere from around 300 million up to 2 billion. That's a small cap. Mid cap is anywhere from 2 billion and above to 10 billion. And a large cap or capitalization company is a value of 10 billion and greater. They've now got or Micron, and so, but those are kind of the three basic companies, and they function differently. A large cap company is generally thought to be a little bit safer. We call them blue chip sometimes because of their capitalization, because they've been around, the management, the people that have got the results, or they've handed off and had good tenure. There's several things that play into that, but they're generally a little bit safer. Therefore, they may give a little bit less return because that's the risk return, and they're going to probably give a dividend. Mid cap will be a little bit less, considered a little bit less safe than a large cap, and then a small cap will be a little bit riskier, but have notoriously done better with returns because they're more nimble and movable. So all of them are different. You can't say one or the other. That's why when we're talking about a portfolio, it's good to have a little bit of those in there. The more or closer you get towards retirement, the more you generally migrate a little bit more towards the blue chip or the large capitalization and a little bit more fixed income, which we'll talk about a little bit here as well.